So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and Bubsy fans. This video is not so much for the average gamer, but more for the exceptional gamer or the elite gamer of the Bubsy fan. So, here are my thoughts on Bubsy. I've been a fan of this character since about 1999. I was introduced to him with the Fractured Furry Tales. It was the second game on the Jaguar, and I was looking for a good game, and the game person at the game store, suggested Bubsy because he liked him on the Genesis, which I didn't register that at the time. I was like, all right. So I played it and got better with the game over time, and really grew to like Fractured Furry Tales. So I've tracked the character since then. I've played a little bit of this character on the Genesis, on the first and second game, and Bubsy 3D. To be honest, the only games I've really gotten all the way through were Fractured Furry Tales, which, after playing this game all the way through, I think this is still my favorite. This is probably my second favorite Bubsy game. There's a lot I like about this game, mainly the characters very much in spirit with the game and with the character himself. There's a lot of ways that Bubsy could have gone after 20 years, and I like what they did here. He's still a character who's kind of full of himself, still optimistic, still got a lot going on, ego-wise. But he's also kind of grown up a little bit too. The character isn't quite so kiddie, so I do like that aspect. And yet, a lot of the sayings are said in this one. Of course, this is a game that's not on a cartridge; it's on a Blu-ray disc with a whole lot more memory space. So, with that, it's possible to do a lot more and say a lot more. So, I picked up this PlayStation 4 for this game. Really, yeah, that's one thing I got to say for Sony. Just bear in mind, Bubsy sold you a PlayStation. One thing that a lot of people like about this particular version of Bubsy is we have a tutorial level, and so that gives us a chance to actually go in and learn this game. I have to say, like Bubsy 3D, we had the option to turn the voice off. Matter of fact, in Bubsy 3D, you can actually turn the voice off. Of course, you can turn the voice and sound effects off on a lot of them, but in this one, you can actually slow it down or increase it. And my advice to a lot of people after watching videos and playing it myself is don't increase it from the actual set level of verbosity. Bubsy's got some good sayings, but he doesn't have enough for what he does. There we go. I like the shield shirt. I think that's a really neat idea. And then, of course, all the lives you pick up afterwards, these are all extra lives. So there you go. Marker points, just like in previous Bubsies. Moving platforms. Yeah. So good stuff. I like the gliding ability. That's pretty nice too. So, yeah. What else can be said? Pounce ability is pretty cool. No falling damage at this point. I'm trying to remember if there was falling damage though in Bubsy 3D. A lot of people complain about falling damage and they complain about Bubsy. And here's my analysis of this character. He's a Mario with Sonic speed. At least that was his problem for the longest time. Mario wasn't all that strong either. I mean, he was a one-hit death. And of course, you give Mario the speed of Sonic, and he would run into stuff and die too. I mean, so the wisdom of those who made Mario is that they didn't make him very fast. I guess that's the one thing that can be said. Of course, you get really good with Bubsy, as I did with Fractured Furry Tales, where it's also still a one-hit death. Then you can do a lot with them, and it's just mainly the challenge of being able to die, with that one hit. And if you can move quickly and not die, and that's pretty impressive. Really have fun with this one. You're smashing through walls. It's kind of nice. It's the pounce ability. There you go. So, like a lot of platform characters. You know, he gained abilities. He also gained the abilities, as you probably saw, to climb walls, which is something that Rayman also picked up on in his later games. And of course, I do like Rayman, but I liked it even more when he could climb. Pounce is neat. As you notice, when you pounce them, they disappear. If you just softly land on them and everything, they just lay there, which I love this body count. This is kind of, yeah, I know, morose, but what can I say? I like the woolly bodies just kind of hanging about. There you go. Unlike other previous Bubsies, though, if you die, these guys come back. And that's unfortunate, you know, because, well, they're not that big a threat, but it's just kind of nice for them to stay dead when you take them out. Boop. Here we go. Let me see if I can get a nice little body pile there. Yep, 3 woolies. That's awesome. There we go. Boom. So, yeah. The one reason I was playing Fractured Furry Tales earlier today, and there's a funny phenomenon that goes on. As you can see, Bubsy is quite small on this screen. Now, sometimes it will zoom in on him. There might be like just like that, and he'll actually zoom in a lot closer in some places. What's bizarre is if you play one of the earlier 2D platforms, say Genesis or Super Nintendo or Jaguar, you'll wonder what's wrong with the zoom on your screen. Those bees are pretty cool. I like to think that they're flashback from the Fractured Furry Tales, but I think they're. I haven't gotten that far in Claws Encounters, but whoa, okay, stop following me, guys. I think they were in the later levels of that too, so I'm not sure. But as a Fractured Furry Tale fan, like I am, I like to think the bees are kind of a. It kind of came from that one. This game follows a lot of the ideas and enemies as Claws Encounters of the Furred Kind. You've got the sand sharks, you've got the woolies, I guess bees if they're there. I really couldn't tell you on that one. And I'm trying to think what else. Kind of missed the bandito hamsters. They don't feature them on this one, but there's a whole lot of ideas though that seem to have come over. A lot of phrases and sayings came from Bubsy 2 also, so I've seen some of that as well. No atom throwing in this one, like in Bubsy 3D. Not to say you couldn't in the future. And of course, you got your nice little ball cage. And, and some people talked about a lot of the things about this. I've seen a lot of people speed run through this Bubsy game. And they complain that they could get through this game in about 40 minutes, 20 minutes, or something like that. And honestly, I think the problem is they didn't stop and enjoy the game for what it is. It's a game based on the idea of hunting and seeking, and it's kind of the quest of it all. He doesn't say that phrase that much in this game, by the way. It just basically happens in the first level with Reservoir Cats. But no, the main fun of this game is the quest and the thrill of the quest. Now, I went through and I would play multiple versions of the game. As a matter of fact, it took me about 2 months to get through all this game, meeting 100% of the objectives, meeting not dying, collecting up all the lives, and see, what's the other one? Let's see. Oh yeah, and getting into the ball cage, yarn ball cage, that is. So anyway, so the first one I would just kind of go through and just try not to die, and then the second one I would, of course, die a lot, but I would try to find all the lives in there. And then the third one, try to find the keys to the cage. And sometimes I was able to make the objectives all at the same time, but usually not the first go around. So that was fun. I've accomplished most of the objectives, with the exception of the final boss just not dying. I've come pretty close, and before too long I'll probably have that one nicked. And then I'll have Bubsy mastered, and I'll have to wait another, what, 15 years or so for the next Bubsy game to come out. That pounce ability, well, some people have complained about it. You really got to stand back. You got to gauge your distance. It's a good little trick to use, especially as you're fighting the bosses, and the bosses bring about woolies for you to fight. It's a good ability if you're trying to kind of strafe along the ground and take out woolies. But you really got to get used to it. It's not the easiest of abilities, but it's pretty cool. And as I showed earlier, the woolies actually go poof, much like in the older games. So, not bad. And right here is, you're about to see the one objective I haven't reached yet. See those green balls off to the side? I have yet to actually pick those up. So this is a level that I haven't gotten 100% of the yarn balls, which that's something that this game could have used. This game was really good about pointing out that you picked up all the lives and got into the ball cage and all that. But the one thing that it didn't do was give you a counter to show how many yarn balls you've collected. Yeah, so I'm actually having to keep a manual written list of that one. Why? Because it's fun. It's a game I got. It's a game I enjoy playing. It's something I did on Fractured Furry Tales too. I also had a tendency to kind of, do various other little side quests. How many balls can I get, and so forth. And that's one thing I like about this version of the game. Woolies Strike Back. I like how you got the counter. Where it shows I have 254 yarn balls out of 600. That tells me what I had yet to collect. Of course, it takes out a lot of the mystery of are there any more objects to pick up, but same time too, not too bad. It's a great ability to have. Yeah, people have complained about in this current modern age, the aspect of fighting or playing for a high score is passe, but nope, you are Bubsy, and you are here to recover yarn balls. So, there you go. So yeah, meet the objectives. Took me a while to do it, and of course, bear in mind I'm not a person who plays games every day. Got a little bit of a life going, and a job, and blah blah blah, like so many of us other people. So, but, oops, crud. There's a fun one for you. But yeah, you space it out. There's a lot to do here. Now, one thing I was going to mention, I was trying to get too sidetracked, is sometimes you can be flying along, jumping, and hit that pounce, and it'll send you off in some crazy direction. So, yeah, it's just something you get better at, though, with time. There we go. Come here, bees. So you lead the bees to the flower, and then that takes care of them. And they'll actually stay there for a good while, too. There's I like to consider that kind of in a way a permadeath, at least until you die. Like I say, when you die, you got a lot of things that reset. So yeah, it's not too bad. The red woolies, they stay gone until you die, and then they come back, or they respawn when you respawn. Just want to show this. There's a lot of platforms that will disappear as you walk on them, but then they'll reappear a little bit later on. Oh man, come here, key. The keys tend to kind of change locations. The lives stay in the same place, but the keys don't. There we go. So, get guess I'll just collect these lives now. There we go. Yeah, when you're out to collect everything, sometimes you have to repeat a couple of places. Oh, I almost forgot about these guys. There you go. There's one thing you can count on. It's the ability to glide down on things. So, yeah, pretty nice. I want to go down in here, I think. Nope. Oh well. Of course, one thing they've added is this kind of this mid-air somersault that kind of gives you just a little bit more lift. So I guess you could say in the 24, 21 years, no, it's actually been 21 years since the last game, I think is the official count. And then I guess in that time, Bubsy picked up a few other tricks. There we go. Kind of a neat one right there. There we go. Poop. Yeah, the carnage count's kind of nice on this game. I know that's not supposed to be a thing, but let's just be honest. Whoa! That's one of those times when the pounce almost got me killed. It happens. You gotta watch your button mashing. There we go. Water is still the kryptonite of Bubsy. So, be careful with that. Alright. See, do I have anything left over there? Okay. Alright, here we go. Alright, let me in. Did I say, Oh! That's a Bubsy 2 phrase right there. Alright. So this one, you gotta get to the very edge. There we go. And yeah, that one area leaves me about 12 short. It's kind of a bummer. And I got a couple of other ones I can show here. In this video, we're gonna pretty much leave off at the first boss for now, as I try to kind of, carefully prod through and get all the yarn balls. Hoist! Not really a bad level at all. Just want to show this one. I've got 599 out of 600, and I always almost overlook this one right here. So perfectly camouflaged. 600. Alright, I'm done with this level. In the level You Can't Be Serious, this was one that was a bit of a puzzler for a while. This underhanging one. The main fun part was trying to get up and over, which for a while was next to impossible. And to be honest, I don't know how I did it this time. Pause it midair, I love it. So out of curiosity, how many bees have you gotten on one flower? I gotta give them credit for the developers of this. The bees are actually a very fun little enemy. They'll fly as far as they get to a flower, and they'll stay on the flower. And I love dragging a whole bunch of bees to one particular flower. Sometimes the biggest trick is trying to get them past other flowers. Like that one up there, unfortunately got snagged by that flower. But this one, I mean, how many bees do I got there? About, geez, yeah, close to about 12. Anyway, challenge to try out. At the end of the day, the Be Serious one is not one of the harder ones when it comes to getting all the wool balls. Just gotta avoid a lot of bees. There you go, confetti parade, boom! There we go. So first boss isn't too bad. 100 yarn balls. Mainly got to make sure you get all the ones on the way in and catch all the ones in the one drop that you get. Yeah, the first boss is relatively easy. So as a recap of all this, these first couple of levels, there's only one that I haven't been able to get all of the yarn balls in one run. So that's something I'm going to have to try to figure out in time. That one with the cluster of like 12 yarn balls. I'm going to have to figure something out at some point. And of course, that's part of the fun. Maybe it's a level design fluke and it's not possible, but maybe there is a way to get to it. So earlier, I said that I liked Fractured Furry Tales slightly more than this game. I think the reason is they both have the same amount of levels. You can get through both in about 40 minutes ish. Yeah, you can speed run through Fractured Furry Tales in about 40 minutes, and you can speed run through this one about the same amount of time. So, overall, not too bad. I think there's just more variety of enemies and level design in Fractured Furry Tales. So, on this one, it's a really beautiful setup. I mean, gorgeous, gorgeous setup. I mean, you look in the background and you've got all kinds of great little artifacts going on in the background. You got houses, you got trees. I was actually kind of amazed to see, the shadow of Bubsy as he's floating around in the background. I don't know if you'll see it here, but just some neat stuff. And later on, when you get the sand sharks, there's one of them where the sand shark goes from sand to actually going through water, and it's just the freakiest looking thing. But just look at that. That's beautiful. And at the same time, though, the designs, they're really not all that different. You go from forest to desert. The earth ones, there are differences. I think maybe one of the advantages of the 16-bit world was when you had changes in scenery, it was a little more drastic. Here it's also beautiful that when you finally get a little change of scenery, it still kind of blends. It's kind of weird. And one thing I didn't get a chance to actually say earlier, one of the things that made the transition from this to the Jaguar so staggering was just the whole notion that everything's so small and so everything. I'd play this game and the graphics are so small and crisp and everything, and then you play the Jaguar and 16-bit version, and it's just like it's a shock. It really is. You're gonna have to experience it for yourself just to see what I mean. But again, the reason why I do like Fractured Furry Tales slightly more is zippy. Maybe of course I've also played it for years and it's what I've grown accustomed to. That could be the case. Maybe if you ask me in a few years, maybe my opinion will probably change, and I think it will, especially with that wall shattering ability. But Jaguar, you got on that one, you go from a forest one to a beanstalk one to a castle one, and then you get the Arabian Nights one and the candy one. I mean, such a variance of scenery. This one, forest, desert, and then outer space. So still very creative and very neat. A lot of cool parts to it. I think that's one of the reasons why I even finished it. I've almost finished Claws Encounters. Claws Encounters had a pretty good variance of scenery too. That one, you had the trees, and you had actual town. Then desert? No wait, fair, desert, and then forest, and then the Woolly spaceship. So that's the difference. Anyway, but overall, I think they did a great job for what they did. I think using a game engine of a game that worked out pretty good. Gia Sisters, if I'm saying that correctly. I think that was a really good way to go. Especially for an opening game, just to kind of test the waters. And I'd like to think that this game is kind of the testing of the waters, to be honest. So, we'll have to see how that goes, though. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for tuning in, and maybe next time I do a video, I'll have this one little special area figured out, and we'll have mastered this particular level as far as getting all the yarn balls. In the meantime, I'd like to thank you and thank everybody who's tuned into my speed runs and other Bubsy videos over the years, and of course there'll be more. So stay tuned, and we'll talk soon. Dr. Clue signing out.